Victor, thank you so much for being here, man. I really appreciate it, sir.
Hey, you got it. Hey, thanks, Jacob, for having me on the Vineyard podcast today, man. Funny little incidental is, I used to pick grapes with me and my family in the vineyard. So, it's kind of like home.
Awesome. I'm glad I'm reminiscent of that period.
There you go. It was a very
Um,
grateful time. So, thank you.
it's better now though, right? Times are
Hey,
better
hey,
now.
man. Like my brother Benny would used to say, God rest his soul. If I was doing any better, they'd have to lock a brother up. That's
That's the
how
best
good
you could be.
that's how good I got it, man. It ought to be illegal. How much fun I'm having.
Awesome. Uh yeah, to give people a little backstory, we tried to do this a couple days ago, but we were running into some technical difficulties. But we're here now, so it's a big deal.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah,
huge. And
yeah.
Victor's on. I mean,
It
I
was
this
all
is
Zoom and doom last time.
to say the least, but we're here now, and I'm so stoked. Thank you again for coming
Absolutely.
on, Victor.
Oh yeah, yeah. You got it, man.
Yeah, we chatted at the Continental Room in Fullerton a few weeks, maybe a
Nice.
month ago, a few weeks ago now.
Yeah, about a month. Yeah, nice show. Great venue. Love that place. Good turnout. Great fans. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was a little tiny stage made for a little tiny singer like me.
Well, how did you get into singing? Was that something that is that how you entered the musical realm was through singing?
Yeah, yeah. So I come from a family of musicians. My my tios, my uncles on my mom's side, they're her brothers. They played guitar and sang, and then my abuelo, my grandfather on my dad's side, my dad's dad, he played as well. So it wasn't uncommon for our family gatherings to have everybody, they would pull out the guitars, and of course we'd have all the beer there, and everybody would just sing and play. And so they kind of had me do the hard songs, the high voice songs, because I was like, 9 or whatever, and or 8, and they would have me do all the high vocal songs, and I'm still doing them. But it was a lot easier then, before my balls dropped though.
Were you always comfortable singing the in a higher tone, in a higher range?
Well, Jacob, as you can hear, my speaking voice is quite low. So
Baritone speaking.
yeah, so it's kind of it's comfortable for me. I've been doing it a long time, but I can kind of sing in all the way from down here all the way up, right, to where I'm at in Los Yesterdays, and a lot of backups that I've done on other recordings with Roland, the other half who you interviewed already.
I mean, go
Uh,
check that one out after this one.
yeah, yeah, check it
Great
out.
interview.
He's a genius, and so like when we do stuff with Noriega's label or Zodiac, or on other labels that we've done, generally I'll do my own backups and 3-part harmonies and stuff. So I'll do the lows, and I'll do the mids and the highs, and then the lead. So we got a new record coming out, and we kind of did it like how we started out, just me and Roland. And
In the
that's
garage.
on Now Again, hopefully here soon. And you're going to hear a lot of that again. It's just me and Roland and a lot of my voices, but we pulled in the homies as well on that new record, that to help us, Dave Paul from the Dave Paul band, and Clarence Matheny. Those are guys who kind of come out and help us whenever Tommy and Roth aren't available. So yeah, we have friends and family on there. We got Jackie Mendez on the record, and so it's a few luminaries in the field, as they say.
Awesome. That's fantastic. Yeah, when you guys oh, of course I was talking to Gabriel b- before we started chatting on this one. And again, go check that episode out because it's amazing. And it was just you guys starting Los Yesterdays in the
Yeah,
very beginning.
yeah, Yeah, it was. Roland, mentioned it in his interview that it was kind of one of these situations where he just was like, "Hey, man, like let's do this Chicano soul stuff that we grew up with," and I was just like, "Down." The only thing I said was that I go, "I'll do this," but I had retired from music for about 7 years. And I was like, I'll do it, man, but I'm not playing no shows, dog. I'm done with playing shows. I'm not doing it anymore. Too fucking old for that shit. And then we got signed, and then Roth and Tommy were like, yeah, we want to play with you guys. And I was like, oh fuck. Now I got to play.
So
And now
what
we play out pretty well, pretty often. Not as often as some of our compatriots on Penrose, but we get out, we get around.
yeah. What made you kind of step away for those 7 years? So that's a good chunk of time to be not performing live.
To tell you the truth, frustration with musicians, because the artists are flighty, man. They're flighty as fuck. And I always had my own band. Roland always had his own band. And I always had my own band. And we both wrote, for our bands, our individual bands. And then I would do backups on his record, and then he would do drums and produce my stuff. But we never thought about getting together. That was actually his wife, Kristen's idea. That she was like, why don't you call Vic and see if he wants to do this Chicano soul shit with you? And so, the first song we did was Mr. Yesterday. And I was, for those out there who caught other interviews, I'm perennially heartbroken. I'm always, shit just don't work out for me. And it's never my fault.
Never. Nuh-uh. No.
Never my fault. Never.
Never.
But yeah, so things hadn't gone right with the long-term relationship that I was in, and kind of Mr. Yesterday was kind of how I was feeling at the time, and laid that down, and it resonated, and it got assigned. So here we are now, 6 years later, doing some more recording, and we just had our new single, Who Made You, come out with Frankie Quinones, from this Hulu TV show that Roland's doing the music for. So
Go check that out. Season 2 coming up.
Season 2. So God, we pulled him for the video, and I kind of, that was, the videos are my deal. I like write them, and we kind of figure out, me and the director Dave Braca, who's like a brother from another mother to me, and then we kind of write them, and like, hey, here's the concept for the new single, the new song. And we since there was a connection, we had played at this Fool TV show premiere party, and Los Yesterdays played because two of my guys were involved with the first season music, and so they asked us to do it, and then that's when I met Frankie, and I was looking for him after the whole Bethel was done, after the whole event, just to say what's up, and like, I'm a fan, and I'm walking, and then I hear, hey, and I turn around, and it's Frankie, and he goes, hey, you're the singer for Los Yesterdays, huh? And I'm like, yeah. He goes, man, I've been fucking with you guys for a minute. I'm like, man, well, I've been fucking with you for a minute. He goes, hey, man, let's take a picture. He's a super cool cat, and he was excellent on the set, man. He was a gem. Real, nothing, no prima donnas at all. No prima donna,
Yeah.
So
He's so funny. He's such a funny guy.
dude, that guy had everybody entertained. It was a long shoot day. We were there for like 14 hours, and we kept everybody. And we did it in a bar, and it was a dry bar because we didn't want, I don't trust raza with free alcohol, so
You don't want nobody getting
we didn't want them
dropped
to be
there.
all like passed out on the table at the, but we need to still film, So
Yeah.
it was a long day, but he kept everybody like entertained the whole time, and nobody split, they went to go get food and stuff like that. I mean, I had food on set, but they also went next door to a restaurant there called Cabrera's in Duarte. I'm repping for Duarte right now. The whole video was filmed in Duarte, and we were at Route 66 Roadhouse Tavern in Duarte, and it's Cabrera's is right next door. So I'm like, you guys can't drink here, but you can go to Cabrera's and get some drinks. So whenever we had a break, we would go over there and then come back. But yeah, it was an awesome experience, and it's the views are doing quite well, obviously.
Yeah, I highly recommend going and watching that video. That'd be linked below of whatever platform you're listening to this on. It's definitely go and check that out. It's awesome.
Oh, thank you, man. Thank you.
Was there a reason why you chose that place to film in, or was it just kind of available?
So first off, the owner's a friend of mine, and so she gives me a sweet deal on the renting the space, right? And we had already had conceptualized that it would be in a bar, right? And it was kind of originally supposed to be part two to Nobody's Clown, right? Where the girl who discarded him gets her comeuppance, right? And it still kind of is like that. Uh we used Luciana Vara, who was in the one of the few humans in the Nobody's Clown video who buys El Triste at the end. So we went back to her, and we kind of went back to this place because it was pretty ideal for what we had envisioned, you know. And so it kind of just worked out that way, you know, that because the song is really about, seeing your ex, and she's got on the clothes that you bought for her, and she's with her new, vato, and that, who among us hasn't been in that situation where you see somebody and they're rocking, it's like that, yo, man, that's my t-shirt, you know what I'm saying? We
Yeah,
literally had people
yeah,
go, that was my favorite t-shirt. Now you with this fool wearing my, you know. So, it's all kind of, when I wrote those lyrics, it was that to elicit a response, an emotional response, but without having to call something. My whole thing is I like to, I don't like to be too on the nose, although Nobody's Clown is and stuff like that. I usually kind of try to place little, but
hints.
little buttons that people that are going to provide an emotional reaction. So that was a fan favorite. We've been playing for a while, but we finally got it out the door, and with Roth and Tom Brennick and Roland and all these guys putting their juju on there, man. It really came out great. The strings on it, and all that. Tommy played piano on there, and it came out spectacularly. And it was pretty funny because we had already recorded it, and it was in the can. It was done, and we were getting ready to put it out, and then Roth's going, nah, nah, it's not right. What do you mean it's not right? It's like, yeah. What do you think, Roland? Roland's like, yeah, not. I mean, you guys are crazy. This shit sounds amazing. What is the matter with you? So we had to redo the whole song. So it took twice as long to get that song done. But you know what? For those of you out there who ever want to question if you have a brilliant producer, if you're in my shoes where you got 3 brilliant producers, just fucking listen. Don't be lazy. I was all like, man, I got to go sing this shit again, but they were right. Came out dope.
If Gabe Roth, Gabriel Roland, and Tom Brannick are telling you something, you got to kind of listen. You got to hear them out at least.
One would think, but you also have hard-headed.
That's true. It's true.
I mean, I went kicking and screaming, but I went, and they were right. They were right.
Masterminds behind this project.
I would like to say next time.
You included, Victor. I want to add that all these minds coming together with this project. That's why it's so special in my eyes, at least. Like that, there's heavy hitters behind this.
Yeah, I feel like
Penrose in general.
I'm the Ringo, where you got all these guys who play a million instruments, and I play the fool. That's what I could play. That and the radio. You know what I'm saying? So
the Beatles wouldn't be the Beatles without Ringo, though, Victor. Let's just say that.
Amen. Yeah. So God blessed me with the ability to write songs and come up with lyrics and stuff like that. So Roland and I, that song went through a lot of changes, a lot of drastic changes to that song. But I was real proud to have come up with the outro for that one, where it gets that little stop, and then, but does he know? Like I was like, oh, let's do something like this. And it's a total departure from the rest of the song. So it gives it makes it more unique. I got ADHD real bad. So it's like, you gotta keep my attention, man. It's keep it moving.
Yeah. That, the whole changing of the tempo at the end there is just, it's a great cap to the song. It's building up just to mellow out at the end. Oh, fantastic. Go listen to that fucking song if you haven't heard it. And if you have heard it, listen to it again. And watch the
And
video too,
Roland,
of
man,
course.
the dude, he's a producer and he can play every damn instrument. Thank God he can't sing, or I'd be out of a job. I say that all the time. But he could play every damn instrument. But his drumming, you'll never hear someone play drums like Gabe Roland. And if you come to a live show, man, let me tell you, I don't know how the hell you fit Keith Moon style drumming in the soul format, but he manages to do that shit.
Yeah,
And almost blew my fucking eardrums out the last show. But hey, those are that hazards of the job when you're playing with a monster like Roland.
amazing.
He puts on
Amazing
such a
drumming.
show. Puts on such a show.
You can hear it through the recordings, obviously, and his fills and everything that he does, amazing. But to see it live and to see everybody's part live is just amazing. I can't recommend it enough. Go see him.
Yeah,
If they're in your town, you better go see 'em.
he makes it hard for me to keep eyeballs on me. Because he's doing a show back there. I never get to see any of that, but until people start posting stuff. But he makes me have to really work hard to keep people's attention.
Everyone's on their toes, and that's awesome. Yeah.
Unlike El Triste, where if El Triste gets up there, forget about it, dude. Olvídate. No one's paying attention to the singer, dude. Everybody's looking at that fucking puppet right there, and I'm like, motherfucker, I'm getting upstaged by a fucking piece of wood. Fuck, ain't that some shit right there? But what Cain does with that little fucker and all of his puppets and how he imbues them with life, viscerally through his fingers and what he does with his hands and wrists and everything. There's just nothing like it. Just nothing like it.
It's incredible. Kind of taking a step back to the origins of this band Los Yesterdays. I remember Gabe telling me the story of you guys being at a barbecue with Gabe, and Tom was there as well, right? Or I might have that wrong.
No, it was actually at Tommy's house.
Okay, Tommy's house. Got it.
Yeah. In back then it was in Altadena. Yeah, that's how we invited us down there, and wanted us to meet Gabe Roth, and then we did, and then we didn't talk about business or music. There was a bunch of like people from the Dap Kings there, and the Budos band, and all these fuckers, and we were just like, whoa, man, this is like, we were just like kind of on the spot right there. And and then did he tell you the story about Time?
I believe so.
It
But
was
yeah,
at that barbecue where he was like, they were like, well, what, we only had a smattering of songs, at that time.
right,
What
right,
else
right.
do you got? And Roland's like, well, I wrote this song on the way over. He goes, I wrote this song before I came over here, but I just only sent it to Vic like right before I came, so he doesn't have anything for it. And I go, oh no, I wrote something on the way over here. And they were like, what? And that was a Time, and it was pretty much the way that you hear it on the 45, with exception to the bridge, that little bridge that I wrote. This bridge is a little simple because we were like trying to go, well, we should put this bridge and go somewhere else and come back. And I go, man, this song is so groovy. don't let the groove die. Like stick with that groove. And so I was like, why don't we just do something like doo 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 dun 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 dun, and then like I showed Roth the bass line, and Roth was just stuck to water, and it was like that. But yeah, I sang it right there, and they were just like, everybody was just blown away. They were like, you wrote that, because it was like a 20-minute drive. Like, you wrote that on the way over here? And they're like, and I'm like, yeah. And they're like, words like circumnavigate? That part didn't really happen, but I was like, well, the song only has 2 verses. You don't, if you're just grooving on it, you don't realize that it's only got 2 verses. The easiest song for me to sing, other than Nobody's Clown, because everybody sings it and I don't have to say anything.
Were those words that you were kind of putting together for the song on the ride over? Were there things that you were kind of already thinking about incorporating, or was that just all off the dome? Like, all right, that would work here and this would work there and blah blah blah.
Yeah, in that instance, and people always ask me, oh, how do you write? Does the lyrics come from? Does that come from? It's always different. Each song is its own entity, and it has its own personality. And so each song is born differently, you know, because they're all unique and they're all their own thing. So with that one, I had kind of a melody line idea, and you know it was just like and I'm like, you know, and then back then people go, hey, you know, you sing that one way different than you sing most of your other stuff. It's like, well, we didn't know what Los Yesterdays sound like.
Still figuring it out.
Yeah, we were still figuring it out. So I'm like, let me do my fucking Jim Morrison right here. You know, Raza loves Jim Morrison. They love Morrissey, you know. So they any that kind of vocal, they're all about it, you know. So I also throw that into, you know, Tell Me I'm Dreaming as well, the big kind of operatic, you know, that one's like my chante voice, you know, Vicente Fernandez, and I kind of throw the chante in there, fucking, you know, that kind of shit. And you know, you don't get to see that a lot in this scene either. Like everybody kind of stays real high because that's the kind of the genre that the sweet soul sound is like. It's just really high vocal, male vocals is like a hallmark, a staple.
Mhm.
But I like, you know, me and Roland, as far as those yesterdays are concerned, and if you listen to what we have out there currently, music wise, and then what's going to come from this next record, we really take great pains to try to differentiate ourselves from the other bands on the scene, right? Even though we respect them and they're all hell of great musicians and songwriters, we want to carve out our own kind of sound, the Los Yesterdays sound. There's a new song that we just did on the new compilation on Trejo Music, and that we have a song called No Looking Back, and the compilation is called Soldies Are Forever on Trejo Music. So check it out. It's free download. You know, all kind of good stuff on there.
It's
All his,
free. What do you come
yeah,
on?
all of
Yeah.
his artists. But it was interesting because when we submitted that song, we we kind of expected some pushback, right? Because we were throwing something that we wanted this something to go out there that was going to be completely different than what was going to be on that record, right? That was just going to be our little thing, right? So we had some other songs as backups that we could have thrown at them. We really wanted to be on the compilation, and we're really honored to be on there. And thank you, you know, thank you Machete, thank you Danny Trejo for allowing us to be on there with all your talented artists, all these great artists on there. And but when we submitted it, they called me and they're like, so we talked about it, and I'm like, yeah, and we meaning Danny and Baby Bash, who was a big part of it, Carlos Guillen, who was the main force behind that record. And we talked about it, man, and we're doing a sweet soul record that night. And I'm like, right. And he goes, that ain't sweet soul. And I'm like, okay, here's where the axe comes in, and that would be, I'm gonna have to start like going, well, we got these others, you know. And then he goes, but we talked about it, and we talked about it. He goes, and Baby Bash really loved the tune, and he really pushed real hard to have you guys on that record. And at the end of the day, what it came down to, he goes, everybody's doing sweet soul, but this is Los Yesterdays, and Los Yesterdays are doing Los Yesterdays. So it's a Los Yesterdays song. So even though it's not a sweet soul traditional, it's a Los Yesterdays song, and it's by extension, it's Chicano soul. And so then they took the track, and it's doing pretty well, you know. And but that's kind of like our, you know, you got to always take risks. You got to always take risks, and in a scene like this, it's real difficult because the Latino scene, the sweet soul scene, is a lot like AC/DC fans. You know, they want the same record over and over and over again because that's what they're, you know, that's what they grew up on. That's what they expect to hear.
Mhm.
And so we have to be very creative to try to, like, you know, try to be a little arty in there, you know, or the way that Roth says it. He goes, every Los Yesterday song has to have some scary clown in there, you know. we gotta go dark, you know, every now and again with some weird shit, you know. We can't just let it go, you know. It's always got to have some weird shit on there.
Right. You gotta keep on pushing it, pushing
You got to
the
push the
boundaries,
envelope.
exploring different area.
Yeah. And it also makes it fun for us, you know. It makes it fun because Roland is like the most creative dude I know. That dude cranks out songs, boy. like none other, like none other. And like he's sending me so much shit that sometimes I'm like something will get past me, and I wouldn't have I haven't fucked with it yet because he's sending me so much shit. But you know, we very much love being creative and love uh pushing the our imaginations to the limit, you know, and we will try anything. We will try anything. And if it, you know, sometimes it doesn't work, but sometimes it does, and you end up with something really fucking cool that separates you from everybody else. And you know, I think whom we maybe use a good example of that. Like nobody's clown is not really a sweet soul. You know, you know, it's like, you know, time is like more of a psychedelic 60s kind of, you know, so we try to bend the rules as much as possible. You know, we both have, as a buddy of mine loves to call me, we both habitual line steppers, always stepping. If you draw a line in the sand, man, we fucking gonna step all over that bitch, and probably past it too.
Wow. Yeah, and was that from the outset that that's what you wanted to do, like kind of break the mold a bit, still be in within the parameters, but not let that
I don't know
hinder
about on
you
the
in any way.
onset. You know, on the onset, we were really trying to just do that genre, right? So when we did Mr. Yesterday, we were trying to adhere to that genre. And, you know, sure enough, we hit a fucking bullseye, right? We hit a bullseye with that. But, you know, the way that me and Roland think about things is, okay, we did that already. You know, if people go, hey, why don't you write another one like Mr. Yesterday? It's like, nah. It's just like the videos, right? The Los Yesterdays videos. I had somebody tell me, hey, you know, um, you know, I know these car clubs, and you know, if you want some lowriders in your video, and I'm like, nah, nah. And they're like kind of shocked. And I go, every video out there in this idiom has the slow motion with the lowrider and the all that pedal, right? And I'm like, I'm not gonna do that, because then it doesn't separate us from everybody. We become, oh, there's another video with that. Nothing against or taking away from anybody else, and it's fine when everybody does it. And if that's how you want to do it, and you want to represent for your car club, and you know, we're down. But the only way I'm gonna put a lowrider in my videos, the ones that I do for those yesterdays, or for anybody, because I'm for hire, ladies and gentlemen. I do that shit too. Come to find out. But I'm gonna try my best to do something original. So if somebody comes to me and they go, "Hey, I want you to conceptualize a video, do a treatment for me," I'm gonna look at what they do, and then I'm gonna look at what everybody does in their genre, and I'm gonna tell them do the opposite. You know, and that's for everybody out there who's doing music or being artistic. Don't do what everybody else does. Now, like I just said, oh, I'm contradicting myself, right? Because I just said, oh, we did Mr. Yesterday to be like that. But when you know, you can't just be a one trick pony. You got to keep challenging yourself, and you know, sometimes you fail. You know, not every song is going to be, you know, for us, our hit is Nobody's Clown, right? You know, and not every song is going to be like that. You know, certain songs just got the fire, they got the magic automatic.
Mm,
Sometimes, like Who Made You, you got to work your ass off to make that song work right, you know? And so it's never easy, but it is very gratifying when you end up getting that, you know, something that everybody enjoys, and that people go, man, that doesn't sound like anything, dog. And then we're like, yeah, I mean, well, that eso, that's what it's about. That's what it's about. That's just, and they got it right. Trejo Music got it. That's a Los Yesterday song, and that's where we want to be. That's
right,
where we want to be.
right.
We want to fit, but you got, it's kind of like us, you know, an oval peg in a round hole. So you're gonna have to
It'll go in. It'll
it'll go in.
yeah,
It'll go
but
in eventually, you know. But you gotta really it's definitely gonna stand apart.
yeah, you gotta work on it. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Did did the Nobody's Clown success, did that kind of baffle you? Like, whoa, I didn't expect it to be that big. What was your reaction when people started like actually like every, whatever, every day or something like that, like getting tagged in stuff or like seeing that the numbers are going up. How did that make you feel? Were you kind of expecting like some success with it, but
Well,
not
I
that
knew
much?
I knew the song was great, my opinion, and yeah, I'm obviously biased, I'm heavily involved in the making of that song. But I knew that the song had hit potential, right? That it was, that it was gonna hit a certain demographic. But I thought that demographic was gonna be brokenhearted old vatos like me, right? What I didn't expect was all the children, right? So now we have kid fans because of the video of El Triste, and with El Triste, and now we have like I have little kids come up and have me sign autographs for them, and like anywhere from like 5 years old to like, you know adulthood, and they just, that song spoke to them in a way that I never envisioned. And the song is a very catchy beat, but it's the video itself is very kind of sad because of what happens to El Triste. Now, you know, I'm sure I'm not spoiling anything for anybody now, but it's got a happy ending. We all love those, don't we, boys?
Of course, of course. This is what we're all searching for at the end of the
you know,
day.
and so it's got a happy ending, and so, but I didn't realize that for kids watching it, it's kind of like a cartoon. And then people saying, "Oh, my kid's learning, he's doing the flashcards and stuff, and learning words and how to spell them." And so the words are like madly, gladly, badly, sad, and we had El Triste. Well, the reason why we did that was because El Triste doesn't have a mouth. So you can't use them to try to sing the song. All we could do is kind of make them move along. And it's like, well, how are we going to express this? And it's like, oh, let's do a subterranean homesick blues thing, like what Bob Dylan did, where Bob's in the basement cooking up the medicine, and you just keep dropping the cards. That's where that came about. But I never ever conceived the parents would be watching that with their kids, and that they would be learning how to read, like, Pinche Sesame Street and shit. You know what I'm saying? So that was unexpected. So the success of it in one regard was expected, but the success for it in that regard, very unexpected, man. And it's actually a great joy to me, because I love kids when there's someone else's, and I don't have to deal with them, and I just got to sign an autograph and be like, well, yeah, what's up, little guy? Yeah, come on, take a picture,
Sure.
and then they go, so that's great. It's great. It's a beautiful thing.
Most yesterdays it's for everybody and their educators. That's the end. At the end of the day, that's what it is.
Yeah, yeah. We're here for
Yeah.
the kids. That's what we're here to educate the public. You
Yes.
know, here's your public service announcement.
I want to talk to you about "Tell Me I'm Dreaming" because that one, is another great, great song. And I was wondering when did that kind of come about? Was that kind of an earlier song that you guys were working on, or?
So that one, we were at Penrose Studios, right? We had all helped, all the Penrose bands all chipped in to build that studio, right? Roth was in there. He did the you know the most work because it's his studio. But the guys, he did the same thing. He built Daptone as well, that studio. So
Wow.
this dude knows, he's a fucking skilled carpenter and a skilled, he knows his shit, man. That guy knows construction from tip to tail. Like, talk about a genius. Like I don't think that guy does anything. He doesn't do anything bad. Everything he does it fucking well, and very well. So anyway, I was fortunate to put in the studio glass in the vocal booth. You know, I did that. So anybody recording over at Penrose and you in that booth, me and Roth put that glass in. So
You know who to thank. It's
I
those
was the first
yesterdays.
motherfucker to sing in there and fucking with that glass. So that I'll take that one. That's like, to me, building Motown. So we finally got to go in and record, and there's a loft area right upstairs, and so I was up there, and the guys, Roth and Roland and Tommy, were downstairs just fucking around. Roth was at the B3, and they were just talking and, like, jamming around a little bit. And I was upstairs, and I was taking pictures, and I posted it to Facebook, and I said, Penrose, Records, tell me I'm dreaming. I wrote it. If you go back through my stories on Facebook back then, I didn't have Instagram back then. You go back, you can, there's a, that instant, is when Tell Me I'm Dreaming got written,
Wow.
because I said, tell me I'm dreaming. Tell me I'm dreaming. And then I went to my phone, I went through YouTube. Tell me I'm dreaming, right? Tell me I'm dreaming. And I could only find something called Tell Me I'm Not Dreaming from Was Not Was. So there was no Tell Me I'm Dreaming. So I walked downstairs and I'm like, tell me I'm dreaming. I'm like this, tell me I'm dreaming. And then I walk to the restroom and I'm like, tell me I'm dreaming. Tell me I'm dreaming. And I'm taking a piss. TMI, but this is the real story of how it happened.
This is the truth right here. Yeah.
And I'm like, tell me I'm dreaming. And then I came up with a melody line and a vocal. And I walk out of the restroom and they're all playing like Roth's at the keyboard. And I walk out and I'm like, tell me I'm dreaming. And then it was like, like the beginning of the Temptations or any of those Motown jams where like everybody just stops and is like, hey man, like everybody just stopped and they're like, hey man, what's going on? Are you okay? And I go, I think I wrote a song. And then Ross like, really? Well, how's it go, man? And then I sang the first line, tell me I'm dreaming, this must be back. And Ross like, okay. And then they started playing it. And he's like, well, what's the next verse? And I go, because I can't shake the feeling, this love is real as can be. And he goes, all right. He goes, what else do you got, man? And I go, that's it, dude. I literally just came up with that, right? Like, that's all I have. So anyway, I'm Tommy and them came up with a bridge on the spot, and then we left it alone. So then we went back and did a whole session of other songs, right? So we did all these other songs, and then at the end, we were done. And Roth's like, "Have you got anything else?" And we were like, "No." And he goes, "What about that Tell Me I'm Dreaming song?" He goes, "Did you write a bridge for that?" And I said, "No, man, I haven't lyrically." And he was like, "Do you think you can do that right now?" And I said, yeah. So I sat down.
Of course. Yeah. Why couldn't I just sit down and write a fucking great song? Yeah. That's why I'm here.
And so I sat down and I said, and I have this picture. I show this at all the shows of my parents getting remarried after 50 years. And I'm going to share this with you right here. That's them getting remarried after 50 years.
Awesome.
And I thought about them, and because they're so in love, even now after 55 years, they're so in love that, it just mind boggling. So I was like, well, sit down and think. And I was thinking about them, and I thought about what would the Platters do, right? Like, what would the Platters do? Because all that stuff is so romantic, like Twilight Time and, all that stuff is so romantic. And I said, well, they would be talking about the stars and the moon, because that's what everybody did back then. They're always like the moon and the stars and, this and that. So I was like, I got to write something about like the moon and the stars and stuff. And so then I came up with the stars, sprayed diamonds, like trying to be metaphorical and, whimsical and all that shit. And I'm like, came pretty quickly. And I was like, the star sprayed diamond upon your face. And I said, well, you got to go in the moon now, the moon and the stars, right? I want to turn it into a Lucky Charms commercial, but then we got to go to the moon next. And I'm like, the moon smiled down, and then I came up with I was like, space, the moon smiled down from space, and I go, oh, if I say outer space, that literally speaks to a different time when in the 50s they called it outer space. Now we call it just space, right? But back then they called it outer space, right? So I'm like, the moon smiles down from outer space. And then the bridge is like not a full, it's not like 4 bars of the same length, right? And they cut that last bar in half. So I was like trying to make it all rhyme and fit together, but I couldn't because they cut it in half. And I was like, okay, I go, and then so I was like, the clouds, so the clouds surround us. What now? I'm in the right. So basically, what happens is you're so in love that you've left the planet, right? You're walking on clouds, right? You're in the ether, right? So it's like so what happens? You're now surrounded by these clouds, and they're beneath you, right? Because you're above that. Because of the wings of love, right? And then I said, well, the clouds surround us, and I can't rhyme it with the last one because and I was just like, the angels sing, tell me I'm dreaming, and we're back into the chorus. And that's how it all got done.
Wow. So that was like 30 minutes just and then done.
Yeah, probably.
Written, recorded, and then and on to the next, right?
Yeah, probably less than that. It was probably because like the first half of it got written over probably took about 15 minutes. And then the second, when the sitting down and writing the bridge took about, oh yeah, maybe like 10, 15 minutes. So maybe a half hour, took about a half hour.
I was just fucking around, but that's crazy. That's the
Well, Clown
wow.
was written in 7 minutes.
Man.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then Who Made You You was written over the course of fucking years. We couldn't get it right. It couldn't, so that's what I'm talking about. There's certain ones that they're just like, they're born completely fleshed out. Some certain ones need a little bit of work, like, like Tell Me I'm Dreaming. We had to come back to it again. And then, certain ones like Clown are just like, 7 minutes. And then, like I said, the Who Made You You, it was a labor of love, man. Labor of love. We kept looking at it going, is this gonna work? Is it gonna work? And why is it working? Why isn't it working? And why? And we move things around. And why is it? Because songs are like puzzles, It's like you go, the parts all work, but they don't work like this. So what do we got to do? What do we got to do?
Yeah, it's gonna fit together somehow, but you just got to figure out how it's gonna fit together.
How it's gonna fit, right? Like with Time, right? It's like, oh, this doesn't need a musical bridge. It just needs a break. That's, and then you're back to the grooviness of it, and you got to be able to feel the song and hear the song in your head. And that's something that, I'm very blessed with. All the guys and people that I work with are all very blessed in that regard. But I'm not a musician type musician. I'm not going to sit there, well, I got to work it out and blah, blah, blah. I just sit there and I, have a drink and I shut my mind off and I'll sit there in a daze. And when we wrote Clown, that was like, Roland was so used to working with me because we've known each other for 30 years. Roland was so used to working with me. When I came up, Tommy, when we were writing, I had already come up with I'd already had the lyrics and the vocals for the first couple of verses, but then we needed a chorus, and I'm sitting there going, we need a chorus, and then Tommy's like, yeah, it's this, and I go, no, it's not that. This is me telling a famous producer, nobody, right? And to Tommy's credit, and the lack of ego that Tommy has, that he listened, and the reason he listened is because of Roland, and because I was like, no, it can't, it's not that. And then he's like, what do you mean it's not that? And Roland's like, dude, look at him. When he gets like that, listen to him. And then Tommy's like, okay. And I go, let me grab a guitar real quick. So I grab the guitar, and I don't know shit about fucking guitar. I just know how to play a few chords, right? So I'm like, all right, it's this chord, the one that looks like a fucking rat claw, and then it's this one, the where you put your fingers like that, all flat and shit. And I'm like telling him, and Tommy's like, yeah, okay, it's this, and I still don't know what the fucking chords are, but it's like, yeah, it's this and that. And then he goes, and then what's the chorus? And I go, I don't know, something like, I'm nobody's clown, nobody's clown. And he was like, all right, well, let's try it. And then we did it, and it was done.
Wow.
The only thing, again, I had to write the bridge, because I remember initially I had something about, the spoken word part. I had something about like, the circus came to town and, the bitch left or some kind of shit like that. And then, and then I eventually settled on that one. And so we recorded the first half of that song. We recorded the music for that song in that session at that time. And like, again, like we wrote the song in 7 minutes, we recorded it and took probably 20 minutes. And we took it to Roth, and we had another situation where the session was over, and he goes, "You got anything else?" And Tommy looked at me, and he's like, had the reels with him, and he goes, "We got this song, man." And everybody in this band, it's so hard to please anybody, and it's annoying for all of us. Trust us. It's annoying for all of us because everybody's such a perfectionist, and everybody's so good at writing songs that if it's not up to snuff for everybody, then it gets shit canned. So Roth was listening to it, and he just had his back to us. He's like this. I'll show you. He's like this. And he's going like this, and he's going like this, and we're all looking at each other like, and then he's like that, and he's like that, and then the song finishes, and he's like, "All right, man, let's cut it." And then we recut it because we put Roth on bass and everything, but it had already been done, and then the vocals were done from the first session, and I just needed to fly in the bridge part. And we'd use the Coke bottle mic for that, and they had went over at, because we recorded that one at Sound Factory in Hollywood, world famous studio, and there's a lot of mojo there, man. And so you feel it, you feel the energy from all these greats who came in there and recorded before. So I think it kind of had partially to do with that, and the fact that I was brokenhearted again.
Also that energy.
That part.
Is energy, is that something that you pay attention to when you're in the studio or playing at a venue?
I think most artists are keen on that. I think it's the new terminology for that is like empath, right? I'm an empath, this, all that battle. But I think in order to be able to tune in to the, what is happening in the universe out there that has existed, like I have no doubt that Nobody Found existed in the ether before I plucked it and brought it here. Like I knew how to sing that song as if I'd heard that song 1,000 times. I just knew exactly how to sing it. I think that there's something about artists that are able to pick up these vibrations or this ethereal kind of stuff that's there and kind of convert it into art. And that's kind of what we're like, antennas, right? We're like antennas. And I think that is part and parcel, the feeling of energy and picking up energy and the synergy of audience and band, and also the mojo that's left behind when greats are in a room. And you feel that, like when you walk out onto the stage at the Ryman Auditorium, where all these famous country music people will play it out there, and you step on that stage and you feel it. You feel that jolt of energy, and it's like, it's powerful. Or like when I sang and me and Roland played over at Sam Phillips Studio in Memphis when we were there. We did a track while we were there in that world famous studio, and it's like you feel that, it's palpable. It's not quite tangible, but it's palpable, and you can really feel that energy. So yeah, totally believe in that shit. I don't know how it works, but I'm glad it does.
How do you feel when you step on stage, when you're going up on stage, when you're about to, like, it's your time to shine? What's going through your mind? How are you feeling at that moment?
I'm just kind of like, let's get on with it, because a lot of people out there who don't perform, what you don't understand, like if you're a headliner, you come in first to do sound check, and then you're the last one to play, right? So you're the last band. The first opening band always sound checks last. So if you're opening, you're the last one to get there, and then you get done sound check, you're still warmed up, and they open up the doors, and then you play, right? With our last show, we sound checked at 5, and then we didn't hit the stage until 12:30. So we're just hanging out for hours, and you're trying to keep your energy up, your energy level, trying to just stay awake, and it's so you're like, in a way, it's kind of like, it ices you, and where you're like, if like, if you're a boxer and you're all prepped to go fight, and then there's a delay, or in football or whatever, there's a delay a game. Now you're getting cold, right? You're getting cold, and your performance might suffer because
Mhm.
you're getting cold,
You
so
gotta stay on it, stay
yeah.
loose, stay in
So
that,
I think that,
yeah, pocket.
I think what we're always kind of just chomping at the bit, like, just like, let's get on with it already. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Come on. Like, we've been here for a long time, like, we want to get on stage already, and then you have the other bands. And so, of course, there's delays with every band coming on and off. And the more bands there are, the more delayed it is. And so it's kind of one of those things where it's just kind of anticipation of it. But people
Mhm.
ask me if I get nervous, but you know what, man, I'm a middle child. I was a born ham, dude. I was always, always just like, hey, pay attention to me, like, it's really the baby, and then the older one, and I'm just kind of like, waka waka waka, like, hey, hey, what can I do? So, I've always been very comfortable with speaking in public and being on a microphone and being on stage and having people look at me and they're like, "Oh, what happened? You played stadiums, like, what? How that must be really intimidating." It's like, you can't see nobody. All you got lights in your eyes, you can't see. So you're there like, what does it feel like to play for all these people? It's like, you can't see any of them.
I
You,
I I I wouldn't know. I can't see shit. So
yeah,
I don't know if you guys are out there or not. I don't know.
you see a
I hope you
couple
are.
people in the first couple rows, but you don't really get to see everybody else, because the more that you pan up like this, the more lights there are right directly in your eyes.
Right, right.
You know,
Yeah. How do you feel once you're done with, like, a late night gig like that, and being kinda in the
tired.
pocket and feeling just immediately tired?
But you know what though, I always try to, because the fans stick around. You know what I'm saying? And the fans stick around, and they're there. So, no matter how tired I am, I'll go out there and I'll sign autographs and take photos with everybody.
Do
And
flashcards with the kids. Yeah,
yeah,
you're there.
yeah, till the bitter end, man, till the bitter end. Like, so that's it's really about, I've always said that I consider myself to be more of a fan than an artist, because I don't play all the instruments. I'm not like, I don't know theory and all that shit. Um, I'm a fan of music, and I enjoy watching music more than I enjoy performing. But when I go out there, I give 110. But I always just said, I'm more of a fan. And so, to me, I always try to think about it from the fans perspective, and about what do they want, and what do they expect for their money, and try to my best to give that to them. And I always try to really put on a big performance, right? It's not just about, I could sit there and sing the notes and be no perfect and yada yada yada, but I would rather perform to people. And if I have a bum note here, or the cracked voice there, or forget a word here or there, or whatever, it's be I know, as me, as a fan, I would rather that somebody sing to me instead of sing at me. In other
Mhm.
words, if it's so studied and precise and perfect, like the record, but you're not getting a show, they're just playing it no perfect. It's a little. I'm like, where's the show, man? Like, perform, like, play for me. Like, I don't, you're like the damn country bear jamboree up there. You guys are just standing there and playing. I've seen some terribly boring bands that I was really excited to watch, but they're just kind of phoning it in. So
And we're gonna name them right now. Why don't you go ahead and
yeah,
start
yeah,
the
I'll
victory?
name them all right now. Here they are in alphabetical order. I didn't come prepared though.
Um, has that has being up on stage, and obviously you go and you see performers that you want to see and bands you want to see. Has that changed your mindset as a fan? As like, oh, I've been there, I've been up on stage like this, and I've dealt with it. Has that changed your perspective of how you view a concert or a show?
Um, No, I mean, I've been at this for a long time, man. I've been at it for a very long time, 35 years I've been performing. So nah, at this point, it's just kind of like same old shit. That's why I didn't have a problem. When I walked away from music, I was perfectly content. I was not, it didn't bug me. I didn't miss it. But I never stopped writing music. My favorite thing about being a musician and an artist is the creative process. Creating music is where it's at for me. Being a human jukebox is all fine and dandy, but to me, it's about creativity. That's where that's where that real rush comes in for me. Being in a fucking fat ass studio playing on the best equipment with the best motherfuckers in the room and working on a song and figuring it out. I do this like a Rubik's Cube because this game, like, it's a puzzle. You have to figure it out.
Right.
Puzzle's like that's the other thing that motherfucker does real great. He's sitting there talking to you and he solves it, fucking puts it down, and he's like, staying completely on point with the theory and the musicality of everything. And I just sit there like, like white folks when Mexicans are talking, it's like, and then I don't know, I can catch every word here and there, but it's just like, I don't know what the fuck they're saying, and so that's the way I feel when they're talking about music, because they're talking about theory and this chord against that chord and you can't do this and this and that, and I'm just like, woo. This sound pretty. This sound pretty. That's me. That's my contribution.
When I was talking to Gabriel, he talked about musical backgrounds, and that everybody's coming from their own musical background. You had yours, Gabriel has his, Gabe Roth has his, Tom has his. Everyone has their own, where they're coming from.
Right.
And I think that's important, that you don't have that like exact, like, oh, I know exactly where you're coming from because I came from the same place. I think that's super crucial as well within this. It's you would approach something differently. As you were saying before, when Tom was trying to, or you were trying to express like what that little bridge should sound like to Tom, and he's like, I don't know about that, but it ended up being correct. Like, it's important that you guys have these different backgrounds within
And it's
music.
important to hear out ideas. You don't ever want to be the one who's like, nah, that's a stupid idea. And then like you hear it later and it's just like, oh wow, yeah, that's it. You know, it, so I think there's a level of acceptance from the guys that in Los Yesterdays, of understanding that it's not about whose idea it is, it's about what the best thing for the song is. Right. And so that's as you're always trying to make sure that the song is the best it could be. Not like, oh, well, I wrote that part, so it should stay there and we shouldn't fuck with it. It's like it's never like that. You could have a beautiful part that just doesn't work in that song. And it's like, that is a beautiful part. And you can have these discussions with people. I've never had it with Los Yesterdays, but in prior bands where you have to tell somebody, it's like, look, it's just not working. And then you have to tell them not to be precious about it. Well, that part is beautiful. And it's like, you're right. It is a beautiful part. It for another song. It doesn't fit in this. And you got to be able to put your ego aside and do what's right for the song. It's always about the song. And you know why? Because if somebody in the room with all these the talent and the the creative genius that is in the room with Los Yesterdays, if they don't sit right with one person, you can extrapolate that out to the audience, right? If it didn't sit right with one person, then that's a fourth of people out there are going to feel the same way.
Yeah. Wow.
When you have something undeniable, it's undeniable to everyone, with exception to vocals, because some people, you just hate certain people's voices, and I'm one of those singers who just hates my own voice. I can't stand it.
But
But
who likes to sound their own voice anyways? I don't like the sound of
Rod
my own
Stewart
voice.
apparently, because that's the only. I was watching the interview with Roger Daltrey, and he was like, "Well, I'll do my best Roger Daltrey English impersonation." He's like, no one really likes the sound of their own voice. It's well, exception with Rod Stewart, perhaps. He seems to really enjoy his own voice, but not too many singers enjoy the sound of their voices, and I fall into that category where I'm like, fuck it.
That was a fucking great impression. That was a good English accent there, Victor. I liked it.
I do voiceovers too, ladies and gentlemen. Anybody needs.
Man of many hats here. I want to ask you about this
Anything
one.
that involves the throat, well, maybe not anything.
Whoa, hey, there's exceptions. Whoa. I wanted to ask you about this song. Give Me One More Chance.
Yeah.
What was the? I mean, I have an idea of what was the backstory behind that, but how did that kind of get created?
So we have another song. I don't want to spill the tea on this one. So, well, it came about from another song that we were playing, and Roth said, "Hey, man, as Roth likes to say, hey, man, he's a real cool cat. He's like, hey, man, like, why don't we take that and make it into a stroll, right? Because a stroll is." And I'm like, okay, well, then we'll change the key, right? So it's not confused with the other song. He goes, no, man, nobody's gonna know. He's right. But so then we turned it into a stroll all of a sudden and started strolling it, right? Which is a stroll, like when you talk about this kind of sweet soul stuff, the stroll is pretty much the main jamming, right? That's the one that everybody employs. Everybody's got a song in the sweet soul genre that's a stroll. It's kind of like almost, you almost have to, it's like a prerequisite of playing. If you you call yourself a souldies band and you don't do no strolls, it's like, fuck out of here,
Well,
so
what's like an example of a
stroll is this. Dun, 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 dun,
Gotcha.
dun, 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 and you pick a fucking soul artist and they have at least one song that's a fucking stroll. Okay, you have to have it in there to show that you're legit.
It's got to be in the repertoire.
Yeah, it's got to be. And sure as shit, I mean, people like, that the audience, like I said, the AC/DC thing, that's what they're looking for. That's what they want. They want you.
That's all strolls.
Yeah, you better have a fucking stroll, bottom line. So, the way that the lyrics came about though, because they just started jamming. We were in Roland's garage. It was like one of the first kind of jam sessions that we had. And we started working on that stroll. And I kept hearing this, ooh, baby. And I just kept hearing that. And I'm like, and I didn't have lyrics for it, but I just kind of came up with a melody line, and it was very close to what the final one was. And then, these songs, again, you gotta pay attention to the song and let the song inform you as to what it is and what it wants to do, right? So as you do that with no ego, you truly try to tease the song out of the ether and into reality. You just and that's your job, to tease it out. It's like Michelangelo used to say that, his sculptures were already there. All he did was reveal them, right? They existed in that slab of marble like that, but he released it and showed you what was in there. And that's kind of what we do as musicians. If you're doing your job and then you tease it out. And so then, I just came up with that, you sure are looking fine. And then I'm like, okay, well, this is kind of coming off to a skeevy start, like you don't want to be that guy hollering at some chick. But then again, I was like, well, maybe you're hollering at your ex-old lady, right? And then it's not skeevy because you got a relation.
No, yeah, there's some background. Yeah.
And then I'm like, well, what does every woman want to hear? Right? It's like, I ain't out running around with those fuckers anymore. Like I got a legit job. I'm like, I'm got everything buttoned down, like I'm not a fuck up anymore. And that's what they need to know. They need to know that. And because women are responsible for society, because if it wasn't for women, it would just be fucking chaos, but they're the ones who force men to do the right thing and for the family unit, right? And having family units is essential to having a functioning society. you know, when that shit goes sideways, and it's fucking anarchy, baby, you know. So, you know, my all my love to all the women out there. You guys are the, you know, you the mothers and the daughters and you know, sisters out there. They're the ones who make society possible because of men are
Absolutely.
fucking knuckleheads. So I just was like, what do women, what's the sexiest shit that a woman would like to hear? And you know what the sexiest shit is? I got a fucking job in my own crib. I ain't fucking I ain't fucking knucklehead no more. That's the shit is sexy as fuck to women. You know what I'm saying? So you know, there was kind of one of those things, and you know, I know all kind of people in that situation. You know, I'm not in that situation myself because you know shit always goes wrong, and then there ain't no kids, so you know that's songs come out of it, not kids. You know, but you know that's kind of the situation, and how you tease a song out, and I just kind of like made it about that, you know, like people think, oh, was that about you? No, no, not every song is about me. The sad fool songs are the ones about me, but a lot of other shit is just you just kind of make stuff up, you know, like Time is about somebody being on the road all the time, and you know, it's like I know you're unhappy that I'm never here, so I'm gonna let you, I'm setting you free, you know, because you know time's slipping away and I'm not here, and you should find somebody who will be there with you, you know. And
Right.
that's kind of the life of a musician for to a great deal, you know. And that's, I'm not going to lie, that's played a large role in you know, no woman wants to be second. Nobody wants to be told, oh, you're second though, you're close second. But I know it's Valentine's Day, but I got a show to play.
Yeah.
You know.
But then you could serenade them, you know, like that's like what I mean, there you
Yeah,
go.
if they ain't too pissed off about it, if they're there, because they might be like, well, you know, my ex boyfriend came to me and he says he got a good job and he's got a fucking pad now, and you out there fucking around. You said you ain't fucking around with them boys, but there you are fucking around with them on Valentine's Day. So real talk.
Yeah, no, I mean stories and experiences. That's what's really
Whether they're
guiding
yours or
this.
not, whether they're yours or not, you know,
Mhm.
they you could read a story or watch something on TV, have something that's impactful to you in a certain way. And I think that as writers, you that's one thing that you have to do as a writer of stories is you need to be able to walk in the other person's shoes and see things from their point of view. There's a lot of devil's advocacy in music and looking at the circumstances of all parties involved. And you know, because there's an old saying that goes, there's your side of the story, there's their side of the story, and then there's the truth, right? And you know, it's one of those kind of situations. You got to be able to try to see both sides in order to tell a complete story,
Mhm.
right? To tell a complete story. And you know, I pride myself on my story. It took me years to learn how to write a good story. And some songs are stories and some songs are just from an individual's perspective, right? And then others are stories. And you know, I have a facility for it for whatever reason. I always had a really vivid imagination, and I'm very well read, obviously, and obviously based on my the lexicon that I'm employing in this interview right now. Navigate. So you know, I kind of write for a living as well in my career outside of music. So you know, and then when I wrote the screenplay and the treatment for Nobody's Clown, you know, and then I came out now with Who Made You You, and I wrote that treatment and screenplay for that too. I realized, well, shit, this is just like writing a song. You're telling a story. It's got to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. Punto. That's the secret. Got to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. You know, and so you know that's just kind of that's kind of my that's what I bring to the table with Was Yesterday's, because those guys can write music 6 ways from Sunday. You know, but I'm the guy who kind of goes, well, what is this song trying to tell me? What is it trying to say? What is it? What is the voice of this song? And then I got it. That's my job to tease that out.
Some great minds behind this band right here. And Victor, again, sir, thank you so much for coming on,
Thank
and
you,
again,
carnal.
I'm so glad we were able to get this together, and thank you again. But before I cut you loose here, I got some promo to do. So, Los Yesterday's music streaming everywhere, wherever you get your music. That's where you could feel these emotions that Victor has given to you, and Gabriel's given to you, and Tom and Gabe, and all these people behind this magnificent project. Spotify, Apple, whatever. And you can support the band directly at the Bandcamp, which is at losyesterdays.bandcamp.com, or shop.daptonerecords.com is also where you can get buy those 45s that we're talking about, and um the Penrose Showcase Volume 1, which I highly recommend. So many good people on there. I mean, there's not a bad song on that whole record.
No,
That's it.
it's really, yeah, it's an embarrassment of riches.
Yeah, it's amazing. Go buy that if you don't already have it, and maybe if you already do have it, get a second copy, because that thing's gonna wear out eventually from playing it too much. I mean, yeah,
Listen to
and
the man.
it's amazing. And everybody can keep up to date with shows, news releases, and everything else by following Los Yesterdays on Instagram, which is at Los_Yesterdays_official on Instagram. Right, that's the best place everybody can keep up to date with everything.
Correctamente. Correct. Or you can holler at your
I
boy, Bad Vic 13.
at Bag Big 13. That'll be also all this is linked below. And also check out this fool on Hulu, and
Yeah.
second season's coming up. That's gonna be
And
rad.
also, I highly recommend going to watch Frankie Quinones live do his stand up because he is fucking hysterical, man.
Really, really
Fucking
funny stuff.
hysterical.
Yeah. Guy's awesome. And Who Made You video on YouTube. Go check that out. That's linked below as well. I mean, that shit's awesome. With Frankie Quinones. I mean, amazing. And Nobody's Clown as well. Go check that one out too. It's all of them. Super special. There's two of them so far, but right? Two?
There's
In total?
3 videos.
Three.
The first one was Time. That we were sidelined because of the pandemic. It was our first single. We weren't a real band like the Altons or these Sinceres or like, so we didn't have a following. So our first single sold like shit. And so I was like, Roland, we need a video because we can't play, we can't perform. So we did our home videos that we did our home videos when we were kids, our Super 8 film, and Roland masterfully edited it and made a beautiful video. So go check that one out too, because it's a great video. And then you get to see when, me and Roland were just little shits 100 years ago.
Awesome. And yeah, go see Los Yesterdays live. I can't recommend it enough. It's amazing. And Victor, you're amazing, sir. Do we have anything else to promote before we end it
I
here?
just wanted to say, well, yeah, we're going to be doing the Blood In, Blood Out 30th anniversary on April 29th at Plaza de la Raza in Boyle Heights, where Nobody's Clown was filmed. And come on out to that show and check us out. There's going to be all kinds of great acts there as well. And
This will be out after that, but I hope that people did go check that out, because that looks sick.
it's
Yeah.
going to be good. And I just wanted to thank you, Jacob, and for having me on the Vineyard podcast. Carnal, it was a pleasure chopping it up with you. You have an excellent interview style, and I wish you all the best, Carnal. And just, we'll look for our new LP that's going to be coming out, and we'll see you again.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you. The pleasure is all mine. Yeah, go check that out. But Los_Yesterdays_official on Instagram, and that'll be there. Victor, you're the man. Thank you so much. I'm gonna talk to you in a minute. Thank you, sir.
Salud.